Did God create vegetation before he made the sun and the moon to sustain them, or even heat the earth? You know, it comes before Genesis 14. It says he made the sun and moon.
You mean 1:14, don't you?
Genesis 1:14. Okay. Is it time that Genesis 1 verses 12 and 13 do not make sense? It's the time, you know, when you look at it and you say, well, didn't everything freeze out then? If there was no sun and moon? All this vegetation? And unless you understand verse 2, these other verses, 12 and 13, don't make sense. The earth had become chaotic because it was in tohu and bohu. During a point of the war in the heavens, the earth and the moon were severely knocked out of orbit. The earth was void of surface life. It was covered in ice. And it was covered in miles of ice. So that it was formless. You notice that when the land is covered with ice and you want to find the sidewalk, you can't find it. It's formless. It's not there. Okay? Till somebody gets energetic and shovels it. But when there's 2 miles high of snow and ice, it's a little difficult shoveling. Well, the Earth had a very unstable orbit. That we have to understand that it wasn't going around at a regular turn on a 22.5 degree angle that it does now on its orbit around the sun. It was wobbling back and forth, but its orbit, from what we understand, may have taken it out past Jupiter and then back in close to the sun and back out to Jupiter again. And it stayed like that for approximately 6,000 years. It had this horrible orbit to it. So, what happens is that we've seen in Genesis 3 to 31 is Yeshua recreating the earth to function again as it was originally created, for its created purpose. It wasn't, he says, I didn't make it to be chaotic and void, destroyed. He didn't, that wasn't part of his game plan. When we come to verse 14 to 18, we see Yeshua ordering the sun, moon, earth, and stars back into harmony so that mankind could survive and flourish upon the face of the earth. Okay? That's what all that recreation. And you will see that a different word for creation is used than in the first verse. The first verse says he created out of nothing everything that exists. The next time creation is used, he created by his word to reposition, to recreate something with what was already there. Well, when things go out of harmony, life doesn't survive. If your heart decides to stop beating for 10, 15 minutes, are you still alive in the flesh? Or has your spirit decided to leave the defunct system?
Yeah, your spirit's going elsewhere, I think.
Yeah. So even if they get the heart going again, you're still dead.
They call it clinically brain dead then.
Yeah.
No spirit there.
Well, the Earth and Moon were thrown into this disruptive orbits because of this war between Satan and his demons and God and the God family and their angels that stayed loyal. There was major war activity going on. And you know, the thing is that it is possible that he used a small moon to hit the Earth up near Alaska and push the Earth out of orbit into the deep cold. Satan was so opposed to God's plan, he would do anything and everything. And there's indications that something of large, major impact hit where Alaska is today. Actually, the Earth is pear-shaped because of it. And the tip of the pear is up in Alaska. This orbit may have been as long as 26 months to complete an orbit. Because there's indication of things in this 26 in the writings there from the Sumerians. They talk of a time before things were stabilized where the Earth was thrown into this huge orbit. But the moon was out of sync too. So was it 26 moons that were maybe 45 or 50 days to do their orbit? Yeah. But they were huge elliptical orbits were formed. And the thing that we have to take into account is that the poles were not stable. They were flipping back and forth across as the shift may have went as far as 90 degrees shift in the poles in an orbit, from shifting from one side to the other, back and forth. And for long periods of time, you'd have a pole that would face into the sun, and then you'd have all, melting up in that area, and then a shift to the other side. The moon came to within 100,000 miles of the Earth, and may have went out as far as 400,000 miles based on, well, that would put it closer to a 60-day orbit, to make that kind of turnaround. So we can see that things were not stable. They were disaster areas. Major disaster area here on Earth. They could not support surface life. Mankind simply could not endure or survive such extreme conditions. A simple winter could dump as much as a mile of snow in or on one hemisphere, the northern hemisphere, or then the southern hemisphere, in a single season. It'd be melting at one end and overflowing in the other end with snow. Floods would be so intense and sudden that you couldn't have soil on the surface. It'd be just washed out. Hurricanes, tornadoes would be in the +8 categories and would be just a constant storm season all summer long when you were facing the sun. There'd be no rest from the storms. It wouldn't appear as a very pleasant place to try planting a garden and living. You know, suppose you got a 550, 600 mile an hour wind. You want to go out and plant a garden?
Not even in a greenhouse.
No, in a greenhouse wouldn't survive. Neither would any flesh on your bones survive. Well, that's what 12,600 years ago the earth was left with. Those conditions. On the second rebellion of Satan. The conditions on earth would have made the stars appear to be streaks or blurs in the sky because of the rotation and the movement and stuff like that. You wouldn't be able to focus on the stars. Any surviving life forms would be forced under the earth into deep caverns to survive. Nothing would survive on the surface. So when we look at the fourth day, we see in Genesis 1:14, then God said, the stars, the lights of the cosmos, shall be set to separate the day from the night, which means they're going to be seen at night and not in the daytime. And they shall be seen as set for telling signs, for seasons, and for counting the days and years. In verse 15, and these stars in the universe shall give a comforting light on and for the earth. And it was so. Sounds like something's reestablished, right? Order was established for the orbits of the earth and the moon, so that day and night cycles would be fixed, and so that life could easily survive on the surface of the earth. Now, if he was in the summertime, he could create, when it was heading in closer to the sun, he could establish plant life on the third day because it was getting closer to the sun, where things would be melting again. But now he changes the orbits. Satan would no longer be able to move the earth out of orbit by what he said. Everything was fixed into its cycle, its orbit and time, to show mankind the glory of the Creator God and how he deals with his enemies. They can't stand in his way. When he orders it, it's done. Okay? In verse 16, and the Creator made secure the two great lights, the greater light to govern the day, and the lesser reflecting light to govern the night, along with the stability of the stars. With the stars. Here we see Moses reaffirm that the minutes and hours and days and months, the seasons, the years, and the 19-year cycle were fixed by God for man's benefit. And in verse 17, and God placed them in the expanse of the heavens. Now the word place is fixed or set still so that they couldn't be moved out of orbit. To give comforting light to all life on earth. Not harsh killing light or heat. The cosmic clock was set for perfect accuracy to announce God's plans, his purpose, and his destiny for mankind. Everything was set in order. In verse 18, and the sun would dominate the day, while the moon and stars would dominate the night. And God saw that it was good and blessed it. What kind of a blessing would you put over the sun and the moon?
One that Satan couldn't breach again.
Exactly. An unbreachable blessing. They would be secure. And even if you tried to run a planet from a rogue planet from another system into the earth or into the moon or into the sun, it wouldn't come near it to destroy it. Verse 19, and there was now a fixed evening and there was a fixed morning, establishing the fourth day. This is different than when in verse 3, where he established his government. The light that he established was his right to change all this stuff to match his plan. In these verses we see rotation set so that the earth would be allowed a heating time and a cooling time that would not make life dull and subject to unbearable extremes. A security in sleep time, then the morning would come. You could look forward to the morning. The compression fields were set so that the earth and the moon could no longer be knocked out of orbit. And even though large objects have come that would have normally altered the Earth's orbit or altered the moon's orbit, they went right by us and did not affect us. Does God's orders work? Okay. Another great ice age would not come because of the war in the heavens. You have to understand, he blocked the wars in the heavens from destroying the earth. However, that would not stop mankind from permitting Satan to cause massive earthquakes, volcanoes, and weather upsets to try and destroy the earth. Okay? Because we're supposed to take charge of the weather. We're supposed to speak peace into the earth, peace into the volcanoes. The humans, like the human race, could destroy the ozone shield that God created to protect mankind or humankind. They can do that. He gave them authority over it. But he didn't give you authority to change the Earth's orbits or the moon's orbits. The human race could still pollute the atmosphere with sulfur dioxide and nitrous oxides that can bring an extended ice age if they get too high. If you don't have enough carbon dioxide in the air and you have a major volcano go off, it releases enough sulfur dioxide and nitrous oxide that soon as it gets close where there's moisture, it forms a reflective flake that turns back the heat of the sun out to space. It doesn't let it go through and touch the earth. So you could have a condition like that form in which you could build your own ice age. And if we follow this through, the human race can still deplete the carbon dioxide. They can say, oh, it's a curse, these levels have to come down. And that will definitely kill off ocean life if they don't have enough carbon dioxide. Plant life will be destroyed. And every living thing and all human life, all these things will be destroyed if you don't have enough carbon dioxide in the air. Plants need it. But you see, we can still carry on these rah-rah projects to destroy the earth. So what God established was an accurate time clock in the heavens and upon the earth that would count down the time when God as Savior or Yeshua would return and destroy those who seek to destroy the earth. And Satan has encouraged mankind to do all sorts of things to destroy the earth. To alter the weather patterns and things like that. Even apparently with HAARP. These devices are now 8 or 9 of them in activation around the world. Well, if they are, as they're said to be weather altering things to cause weather wars, we're in big trouble. Because that's still within our authority to destroy. But God will destroy those that seek to destroy the world when he returns. But we're still in big trouble. They can do a lot of damage. Anyone notice the last 2 hurricanes that hit the States?
Yes,
Yeah.
it was hard for sure.
And it was massive damages done and winds of unprecedented nature to hit where they've not seen them before. Isaiah 44:24. Thus says Yeshua, your Redeemer, and the one who formed you from the womb. I, Elohim, am the maker of all things, stretching out the heavens by myself, and setting firm all boundaries on the earth by my word alone. He had the authority. He gave himself that authority in verse 3 to remove Satan from office or dismiss Satan's authoritative power to alter the earth. Here we see Jesus claiming to be the creator, the governor, the lawmaker, the sustainer. He set this whole universe in its place, gave it boundaries, motion, and time. And he did the same specifically for the earth, as well as setting its purpose and destiny into motion. It had been blocked. Those blockages were removed. Mankind was coming. In Job 9:6-9, verse 6 says, Elohim, who shakes the earth out of its place, and its pillars tremble. As creator, Yeshua shakes or adjusts the earth's orbit to whatever he chooses for it. He was choosing to make man have dominion on the earth. So he adjusted, he shook his pillars, he shook the orbit of the earth back into a proper rotation. Again, confirming what was said earlier. And when the pillars tremble, that not only refers to the compression field holding the earth, but to the function and speed of the earth's core or engine, as to its ability to adjust speed in generating an electrical magnetic field to protect the earth from solar storms, cosmic rays, gamma rays. And here's what's amazing about it. That when there's a major solar storm, the core speeds up and generates greater magnetic field to block it. It knows before it reaches the earth how much energy it's going to need to divert that storm. How is that possible without divine intervention? Then it adjusts, slows down, builds up as it's needed. Always to create stability and to adjust the speed for man's protection. Now, the other thing in generating an electromagnetic field to protect the earth was it was protecting it not just from the solar storms, but the cosmic rays and the gamma rays from the other exploding stars that turned into neutron stars or black holes. Satan could direct things so that those would come at the earth. But with this, it says he's not able to do that. These are just some of the pillars that support pillar support systems established to support mankind's existence upon the earth, without shaking them and putting them into the right harmony. our life couldn't exist here. In verse 7, who commands the sun to shine at correct levels to support life on earth, and sets a seal upon the stars. Okay, this is interesting because the sun has a very strong set of boundaries as to how cool it can get or how strong it can get. And it's got to survive within this tight range that God's allowed for it. Until it's time for it to get 7 times hotter. You notice it's never been 7 times hotter all through the history of man. Until his wrath comes. So we can see that it is fixed, and he keeps confirming that he fixed it. So it can only go so far. And scientists are amazed at this, that it can only get so cool and then it can only get so hot. Where they don't see that with other stars in the galaxy or universe. Isn't that something? Now, the seal on stars is to control is a control to prevent Satan from altering the rotation so that they explode and kill everything on Earth in a massive burst of gamma radiation. No massive star can explode while its poles face the Earth. They've all been blocked. They've come close to our solar system and explode, with a major star exploded, but it's not touched the Earth. Isn't that strange? Touches all the other stars and systems in the galaxy, but not this one. In verse 8, who alone stretches out the heavens. Here, this part, the top part of the verse is, this verse means that he set the universe on an ever-expanding course that cannot be stopped by man or demons. The universe is expanding. And our scientists just figured this out about 25 years ago. They thought it was past the point and starting to collapse based on their theories. When they finally tested it, whoa, were they wrong. We're not only expanding, but we're expanding at a faster rate. How can this be? In the bottom part of that verse it says, and tramples down, walks over, or limits the size, the waves of the sea. This tells us that Satan cannot build storms that overwhelm the Earth's surface like he had done on Saturn. There's a storm there that's over 10,000 years old. Traveling at thousands of miles an hour. And it's over 1,000 miles wide, because you can see it from Earth. That's quite a good sized tornado. However, Satan is using the human race to pollute the seas so that they can warm up and unnaturally support these type of storms, these vast, violent storms with winds over 500 miles an hour. And they're doing it by putting plastic pollution and phosphates in massive amounts into the ocean so that it has something to absorb the heat and hold the heat into the water, warm up the water so it can support the storms. And these massive destructive storms, they'll get worse over the years until the return of Jesus, because nobody wants to clean up the mess in the center of the oceans. They just turn around and get deeper and deeper and deeper. In some areas, I'm told it's over 70 feet deep of plastic. Well, that can absorb a lot of heat. Plus, release a lot of borium, which kills off the animal life in the sea. But that is the will of man, because he was given dominion over the earth, not the will of God. He didn't want us to destroy the earth. He wanted to be prosperous and support the maximum population upon it. And then we come to verse 9 in Job. It says, who makes star constellations like the Bear, Orion, and the Pleiades, and the chambers of the south. These are numerous constellations that were created to tell a story of mankind's destiny in a 7,000-year stay. Astrologers have twisted this meaning and purpose to confuse people and pervert them from understanding the will of God and His plan. They used to know. At the time of Job, they could look at the star and tell you the story of the plan. Now, nobody knows. The Christian world says, oh, we don't want to look there. What if we learn the truth? But sometime you're going to have to learn the truth. So what are the chambers of the south? What does it refer to? Well, there are deep caverns at the South Pole of the earth. Antarctica is full of deep, deep caverns. But it also refers to the patterns that can be seen from the southern hemisphere in the whole, the way the galaxy and universe is all laid out. It looks like brain cells in shapes that are in shapes formed by the galaxies of the universe. And there's big hollow spaces. And that's one of the meanings of the word here in caverns. Big hollow space in the universe. And it's plural, so that means there's multiple billions of them. And there is. These scriptures refer back to things that occurred in Genesis. All these scriptures that we quoted, and there's thousands of others. Especially, this is referring back to Genesis 1, verses 14 to 18. It's what cleared the solar system of the dust and debris of wars so that normality could be established again. And because the earth and skies have been in such chaos and confusion, that tohu and bohu, that really no life could exist. So we have to thank Yeshua for adjusting the earth for us. But it's our job to speak in against the damage that those that are destroying the earth are doing. And we recommend that you watch Mysteries of Light, which is Genesis 1, verse 3, that is on the Malachi 4:1 site. Thank you, and God bless you.